morning. Happy Monday morning. Thank you for joining me today. It is an absolutely beautiful day out this morning. I think it was about 73 degrees and no rain, but lots of these little termites. I don't know if you've seen these little flying bugs that fly around in the early morning. Right as sunrise happens, there's these bugs that come out of the ground and they swarm. My understanding is that they're termites and they're looking, their homes have been flooded, and so they're looking for new fresh wood to go destroy, and so you see them all the time, and they are everywhere. They're incredibly everywhere. So just pray that you don't get the termites. I was out, was it yesterday or the day before, and they were just everywhere, and they were in my hair, in my head. It was horrible. It was just horrible. But that's what you get in Arizona when you're in termite season, or when you're in monsoon season, right? So I hope you had a great weekend. I had a great weekend. It was really just a really, really nice weekend. I just love this time of year. It's so crisp and fresh, and there's about 2 or 3 hours in the morning where you can be outside and really enjoy, gardening if that's your thing, or just, straightening up or things like that. And then, of course, it gets hot during the day, and then at night it'll cool off a little bit, but not as nice as it is in the morning. So take advantage of those mornings. Birthdays. We have no birthdays today, but we have a couple tomorrow, so stay tuned. And then I was just looking at the Arizona Department of Health Services. It looks like there's a little uptick in cases of COVID-19, probably due to the Delta variant, from what I understand. But it does not look like it has increased hospitalizations or deaths. They're remaining flat. So while there is a little bit more people who are contracting this, they have not yet been hospitalized. So I don't know what that means. I think I heard that there are some people that have tested positive with this Delta variant in the political sphere. So even if you're a powerful politician, you are not exempt. You need to take care of yourself. That's part of life, right? Nobody's going to take care of you but you. All right, so what else? I think that's about it. I think today's study will be very interesting, and so we might as well get into it, if I can figure out how to do this. We are in episode 38 of our study of Exodus, and we are in the middle of the 10 Commandments. We have studied the first 3 commandments. No other gods before me. Remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy, no graven images, do not take the Lord's name in vain. So those are all commandments that are focused on our relationship with God. And then we're now going to come into this, what they call the second table of the commandments, which are more how we live socially as creatures. The first 3 commandments are our relationship with God, and the last 7 commandments are relationships with others. And I would probably subdivide them. We'll probably talk about this as we get it to the end of this 10 commandments, but I would subdivide this actually into 3 categories. The first 3 would be our relationship with God. The middle 4, our relationship with others, and then the last 2 or 3, our relationships with ourselves. That's kind of how I would break apart these commandments. But that's so fine. I mean, basically the way that we've always talked about 2 tablets, the first 3 with God and the last 7 with others is fine with me. All the commandments are good and worth following. But now we're breaking, we're making a shift. We've been talking about what it's like to have a relationship with God. And now we're going to talk about what it means to have a relationship in a society, in a group of people. And so even the remember the Sabbath day is probably, remember the Sabbath day is kind of, we talked about this a little bit. It is a commandment that is more for society than it is for individuals. Honor your father and mother is more for families than it is for a society. But this next commandment that we're going to talk about is really one that is central to any society that wants to exist. This is a pretty important commandment. So we'll just go ahead and read it. It's not very long. If I can get to it. It goes like this. You shall not murder. Exodus 20:13, you shall not murder. All right, so, and that is so true. Don't go murder somebody. The very first thing that happened after they got out of Garden of Eden, right? Cain and Abel. Cain slew Abel. Why? Because he was an idiot. Because God liked Abel's sacrifice better than Cain's sacrifice. It made Cain angry, and so he killed his brother, which was not a good thing to do. It is not good to kill your brother. He's not there anymore. Once you kill somebody, they're dead. They're gone. It's a horrible thing. If you're going to live in a society, you just can't go around randomly killing people. I mean, that's good common sense. Even I think people who don't even believe in God would probably say you can't go around killing people if you're going to live in a society together. Now, if you're not going to live in a society together, then you have no moral. I mean, and if you look at the animal kingdom, they go around killing things all the time, right? I mean, that's, if you use the animal kingdom as your marker for what's right and what's wrong, it's a horrible marker, because they kill each other to eat. Some of the animal kingdoms are cannibalistic. They'll kill their own. It's the animal kingdom is not a good reference or marker for a society to live together. And God knows this. And so he gives us the command, do not kill, do not murder. That's not what you're supposed to do. Now, there is so much that can be said about this commandment. So we'll spend a little bit of time about it. First of all, is it okay to go to war? Can you kill somebody if you're at war with somebody? That's a question that people have all the time. Are there different degrees of murder? Is it, if you accidentally kill somebody, is that different than killing somebody purposely, premeditatively? That's a good question. If a person does murder someone, what should be the punishment for that murder? That's a good question also. All these things. All that God said at this point is don't kill or do not murder. That's it. And he leaves it up to Moses and later commandments to try to figure out what the penalty and the punishment should be for murdering. But he does give the standard, which says you shouldn't kill other people. If you're going to live as a community, because you're social people, you just shouldn't kill people. And I would say that for the most part, still in our Western culture, we believe that we shouldn't kill. But that hasn't been the case throughout time. For example, if you have a slave, there have been periods of times where it's okay for a master to kill their slave without any repercussions whatsoever. The slaves were property. If you are in a family, there have been periods of time when it's been okay that the family could kill a member of the family to preserve the integrity of the family, and that's been acceptable also. There have been cultures, the Incas and the Mayans, that actually sacrificed or killed people to their gods, and they offered blood sacrifices, human sacrifices, to appease their god, and that was acceptable. So saying you shall not murder as a standard without any qualifications behind it just leaves a lot of questions. And so let's just talk about a few of those. For example, is it okay to go to war? Well, pretty much from Augustine's just war theory, yes, it is okay if you go to war and kill people. That is that protecting your tribe, if protecting your tribe requires you to kill other people in protection of your tribe, that's okay. And even in today's law, if somebody breaks into your house, your home, with the intent of trying to steal or do something in your house, I believe still legally today in the United States, you can kill that person and not have any repercussions for it. So there is some level of leeway, I guess you could say, in this commandment, that there are, under certain circumstances, the ability to kill other people under certain circumstances. If they're threatening you, if they're attacking you, if they're at war with you, if there's aggression, if there's an accident, these are things that are somewhat acceptable. What is not acceptable is Cain and Abel. Cain being upset and angry with his brother and premeditating, I think, to kill his brother and actually killing his brother. That is unacceptable, and it should be forbidden. And in the and so that should be forbidden. And the whole sacrifices and the familial murder that requires, that is not here in this commandment right now. At this commandment right now, it basically says you shall not murder. God's laying down the gauntlet that says you really shouldn't kill anybody. That's not how you live. Now, people throughout the history of time, even Christians, have done a lot of killing, and they have justified it through various means and methods. But the standard that God says is you should not murder. And I think, being one of the 10 commandments, it's a pretty good one. We should not kill people. That should be kind of a standard. But it's a problem, because if you feel like you're being attacked and it's my life or somebody else's life, can you kill somebody? Now, legally, and I think throughout most of history, if your life is threatened and you take another life, that has been considered justifiable homicide. But there should be, even in justifiable homicide, I think this standard places on us a conscience that says if we take another life, even if it's justified, we should grieve over that. We should at some level feel guilt over that because we have taken another life. There should be some amount of pain in our life that's caused when we take somebody else's life. And I think that's good. I think that we should never just wantonly, casually, flippantly take somebody else's life. I think there should always be some sort of penalty in our brain, at least if we take somebody else's life. Now, Edgar Allan Poe, The Telltale Heart, spoke about this, that there was a murder that happened and the telltale heart kept beating and anguishing the person that killed. Even though he got away with the murder, his psychological state was one that he didn't feel like that it still was going to impact him for the rest of his life. I think that is true. And I think that at the root is what God is getting at, is that you should not kill somebody, because if you do, it will follow you for the rest of your life. You will have guilt for it for the rest of your life. You'll have pain for it for the rest of your life. It could even drive you insane at some point in your life if you kill somebody. So don't do it. The problem with it then becomes, well, okay, so I'm not going to kill, but what does that mean in the whole realm of living our life? Because there are situations where it may be very difficult. Well, when God lays down the gauntlet that says you shall not murder, all of a sudden now he has put in place a whole lot of things. One of the things that goes in place is, okay, the commandment says you shall not murder. There's a person that's dead over here. Did that person die of natural causes, or did that person die of murder? So now every time there's a death, because of this commandment, now every time that there's a death, there has to be an investigation as to why this person died. And so then now you have to have some sort of legal system somewhere along the line that allows for retribution for people that commit murder. This commandment now forces a legal system. It forces a sheriff, if you want to. It forces law enforcement. It forces judges. It creates a whole system that now has to be paid for by society to enforce this law. Or if it's not paid for by society, then families would have to, they'd have to do their own investigation, found out why their loved one died. And if they found out that their loved one died because of the hands of somebody else, then they have to take it upon themselves to get retribution, which might mean that one family goes after another family because they're going to get retribution for this. And then there's this Old Testament eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, life for a life. So if one tribe kills somebody in another tribe, even if it was by accident, the one tribe was legally justified to go and grab a life out of the other tribe that killed, and a life for a life. There's been that sort of punishment system. So it doesn't necessarily always require a legal system, but it does require a cost within a tribe to enforce this law. Because before this law, there was no retribution for murder, but now there's retribution for murder. And this set up a whole system of things to try to create a justice legal system for murder. Now, here in the United States, we have an incredibly complex and difficult system of legal background and history and jurisprudence that dates back to the Magna Carta to help us enforce this law and to understand this law and come up with case law that's like, when is the murder justified, when is it not justified, and those sort of things, because it's just not so easy. Here in the United States, we've classified murder into several different classifications. First degree murder is basically where you go out and you premeditate and you kill somebody and you know that you're going to kill them, you know that it's wrong, and you're going to do it. And then you have second degree, third degree murder, all the way down to manslaughter, which is it was an accident. We were driving in the car and a deer came and I swerved the car and I hit a tree and this person was killed and I'm so sorry, and that's manslaughter, one form of manslaughter. Manslaughter means it was an accident, I think. I actually did kill, but it was an accident. Now, how do you know if it's manslaughter or first degree? Well, somebody has to make that determination. So now you need a jurisprudence system, a judicial system to actually look into this and come up with, was this first degree, second degree, third degree manslaughter or nothing? And so we have in our society a huge legal system that will sort this out, but it comes at a cost. It comes at a huge cost. And the more that society breaks down, the more that cost increases. And we, by having what we call the rule of law in the United States, we almost de facto say we will pay whatever cost it takes to make sure that the rule of law is maintained. And as more and more murders happen, it puts more and more stress on the legal system to the point where it could overwhelm. Like if 50% of people were killed, there's no way that our legal system as it is written could address that. There would be so much effort and manpower put into finding out what the cost is. Oh, and here in the United States, we also have the cost of incarceration. So if it is a person that has killed and we decide we should remove them for society, right now in the United States, we take care of that person for life in the prison system. And there's a cost to that too. So you have this whole correctional system. Now, that's not always been the case. In other societies through time, if it was a murder, it was just yes murder, no murder, and they put you to death. And you may have had people put to death for manslaughter. And that's an unfortunate cost of this. But the fact is that there is a huge cost to society of incarceration that needs to be taken into account too. And the more people that are incarcerated, the more that cost goes up and up and up and up. So you have to be very, very careful whenever you write a law. Any law. Whenever you write a law, it's not just, hey, we wrote a law, we wash our hands of it and go away. No, any law that's on the books in our United States, no matter how benign it is, whether it's you shall not murder or whether it's not, businesses should not be open on Sunday, right? So now somebody has to enforce, the businesses are not open on Sunday. I mean, this isn't our law now, but I'm just talking about any law. Anytime you have a law, there's a financial cost behind it, always. So you need to be very, very careful as you pass a law, because there is always a financial cost to enforce the law. And sometimes you have to create a whole system of things to make sure that the law is followed. And I don't know if legislatures get that, because they pass a lot of laws. They think it's just, if they pass a law, it's no big deal. But if you've ever been involved in a bureaucracy at the level of enforcing laws, you know that every time a law is passed, there's a cost to it, a departmental cost, a administrative cost, goods and services and time and all sorts of things to enforce those laws. It's always there. And I don't think legislatures understand that, but if you've ever been involved in enforcing a law, you understand that there's always a cost to enforce a law. So the more laws on the books, the more manpower is required to enforce that law, to enforce those laws. And if you have "you shall not murder," now you have to have a judicial system and a correctional system or an execution system, or a whole bunch of systems that are put in place to make sure that this doesn't get violated. Now, the advantage of this law is it does help a society live together. Like, if the standard of a society is we're not going to kill each other in this society, that's a great thing, and a society should have that. I think every society should have that law. And I think every society should be moral and upright and understand that you shouldn't murder and not descend into anarchy. Because once you descend into anarchy, you can overwhelm the judicial system, and then there's true anarchy. And then you're no longer a society. Now it's every person for themselves, which have been in societies. There's been every person for themselves. We've had that before. But if you're going to live in a society, you got to have "you shall not murder." This one is not a hard thing for us at all. Kind of a bedrock principle of any society that's going to live together. So this is not a problem. Here in the United States, I don't know how many murders happen every year and how much it costs to defend just murders and how much it costs to incarcerate murderers. But I'm guessing it's not cheap, and there's a significant amount of money spent within our corporate tribalism that helps pay for this kind of thing. And, if murders go up, which, let's say that murders are going up, everybody thinks that the problem is maybe, that it's easier to murder. Let me put it that way. But the true fact is, if murder is going up, at its root is a breakdown of society, a breakdown of families, a breakdown of living together, a breakdown of moral standards. It's a breakdown at a very, very, very root level, which is resulting in the murders. But you cannot stop murders by restricting access to murder weapons or things like that. If somebody wants to kill somebody, they will be able to do it no matter what. But what we can do, or what I hope we would do, is try to create better moral structures within our education system for people not to want to murder people. And that is where I see us in our United States right now, is that there's just been a total breakdown in some locations, a breakdown of the family, breakdown of the education system, breakdown of the moral standards, breakdown of all sorts of things that result in higher murders. And we're not going to solve the problem just by restricting, by just telling people not murder, right? We need to get to a really deep level of connection and commitment and love and security that will prevent people from a desire of murdering. And it's unfortunate that, the one thing that would probably help more than anything else is strong families, strong moral teachings in our education system, the unified, strong moral education system in our education system. But for some reason, our education system believes that teaching you shouldn't kill, like putting this commandment on a wall of a judicial building, is somehow violating church and state. So we're not going to teach anything in our school system that deals with morality, because we all have different levels of morality and that sort of thing. And I think, "you shall not murder" is just one of several different types of moral fiber things that should be in our society. And when we went from, because in the 1800s, all the schools were were basically basically church-run schools, every single one of them. Any school was mostly a Christian organization here in the United States. And that carried us through. Even when my mother went to school, they opened up the day with prayer. Of course, she was in a small town. The two most important people were the one-room schoolhouse teacher and the preacher that ran the church. They were the two most powerful people in that community. So it wasn't any difficulty for him to come in and open the day with prayer. I mean, there was that linking of morality and religion and education that happened. And then it broke somewhere around the 50s or 60s or 70s. That whole link broke. And we came up with the idea that we could educate our children without, let's let all the morality happen in the family, and we'll just let the schools teach the reading and writing and arithmetic. But you can't do that, because part of education, even at early on, we have to talk about the morality of your life and why you don't hurt other people and why you don't cheat and why you don't steal and all these sorts of things. And we've tried now for the last 40 or 50 years to say that there is a legal framework to teach this stuff that doesn't include God. And I just don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think we probably at some point will either descend into anarchy, or we will come to our senses and realize that maybe there is some level of morality that should be taught in the school system, even if it was as simple as the school system saying, listen, we can't teach you morality, we're forbidden, but we believe that it's so important that we highly encourage you to go to church on Sunday or to find some sort of structure in your life that teaches you the morality that's going to get you through life. I would love it, even in our Vail school system, if they said, morality is important, so make sure you go to church on Sunday. I mean, even that one sentence would be a great thing for our society. And it doesn't have to be church. Go to something, sometime a week and get some moral training. Make sure it's a part of your. We can't teach it in the school system, but we know it's important. We think you should teach it too. Just those words would be handy, but it'll never happen. There are too many powerful forces out there that believe that the moralistic training, it oversteps boundaries. And so anyway, I don't know how I got off on this tangent. Just to say that this is an important commandment. Oh man, and Jesus has something to say about this too. In Matthew 5 on the Sermon on the Mount, I'll just bring it up and we'll read it. You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, you shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, Raka, is answerable to the court, and anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fires of hell. Jesus, when he came along, redefined murder to be basically belittling anybody, calling somebody a fool. Breaking relationships with people is a form of murder. And that is so true also. It's not just basically sticking a real knife in somebody's heart, but also murder is sticking a knife in somebody's back, right? Figuratively, betraying somebody, calling somebody a fool. There's all sorts of things that Jesus said are murder that was never considered by Moses. But you have to, because as society grows and progresses, Jesus is all about the kingdom and his growth. And he thinks that anything that destroys a relationship is a form of murder. And so we as people, if we're going to live in society, should want the best for somebody else. We should continue to strive to maintain relationships. That's what we should do. All right. I think we'll end it there. I kind of went off on a tangent. I'm sorry about that. But let's go ahead and close in prayer. Gracious God, this commandment is such an important commandment, and we pray for your strength, for your wisdom in understanding this commandment and following it, so we can live together in your kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen. So I think we'll end it there. Thanks for joining me. I don't know where we'll go tomorrow. I don't know if I'll continue talking about this or if we'll go on to the next commandment, but there's so much to be said about this commandment. And sorry if I went a little bit tangential today. But have a great day. Enjoy the weather, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.